This is the first time in 50 years that baseball is going to have every team scheduled to play opening day. Why do you think the league decided to go in this direction finally?
Oh, I think the new leadership has a lot to do with it. I mean, I used to work for Tony Petitti. Before he became the COO of baseball, is the right-hand man for Rob Manfred, and I know Tony and the commissioner came in looking to do things differently and look to things that baseball wasn't taking advantage of fully. And I think you seem to be in full agreement. I've been saying this for years, like opening day should be a holiday. And it is. It's not that hard to do. And I know ESPN had the contract Sunday Night Baseball, but it just wasn't great. And this is great, right? One game, one day, everybody's playing. I know there's rainouts. It happens. But to have everybody playing, and this is it. Once you see, I know I'm like you sound so excited. It's weird. You're more excited than I am. But I'm going to be doing a show, and I think once I start seeing games being played and they're real games, it's all going to hit me. It hasn't hit me yet. There's still snow in my yard, but I think I'm ready. I'm ready to believe it when I see it, and we're only 2 hours away.
Well, I love this idea of baseball building events and must-see TV. Day 162 has been like that. Everybody play at the same time to decide playoff races. The one-game wild cards, I think, have been a huge success. And this as well, in a day and age where it's harder to keep people's attention, is it more and more important for baseball to look for these moments and seize upon them?
No, you're absolutely right. There's only a few opportunities for baseball to grab the day and be the thing in this country. And it used to be this way because baseball was it. There was less competition. But the World Series, obviously, All-Star break, opening day. There's only a few of them. I would maintain the Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremony could be that. But there's only a few events where you can say there's an opportunity for baseball to be the thing in the country, not just between guys like us, because we like baseball anyway, and we're going to be watching it every day, but just like, again, your mom, your friend who watches a little bit of baseball but doesn't know the sabermetric stats, but like the mainstream person who is just like, oh, wow, yeah, baseball. Like to grab those people, to transcend the sports audience, that's what baseball needs, and I think this really helps to have one big opening day.
Brian Kenny, MLB Network, joins us on opening day. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and all of the rest of the Yankees have a lot of attention on them, and they are that type of story that cuts through the noise. Do you think this team is ready to live up to enormous expectations this year?
Well, yeah, no, I think they're very good. Again, I thought toward the end of the season they were excellent. They also had a very good offseason. Like look, they're loaded, but it's not as if they're loaded and they're alone being loaded. They're loaded and there's like 6 other teams just as loaded. So it's difficult. Like when you say enormous expectations, it's like no, they're really good, but do they necessarily win the AL East? Well, no. Red Sox are another super team. People have been asking me, are they the best team in the American League? No, I think the Astros are the best team in the American League. But are the Yankees loaded? And is it possible to see like an even better version of that Yankee team that we saw in the playoffs, beating the Indians, pushing the Astros to 7 games with that incredible bullpen and now even more power? Oh yeah, no, I think we're going to see a very powerful team, a team that could win it all. But again, DA, we're talking about an era of super teams. Are they necessarily better than those other super teams? Nope. There's a whole group of them, and these superpowers will battle it out in the postseason.
An era of super teams is a good way to put it. Is that good for baseball?
I think so. I know there's a downside of it, but I don't know. You're too young to remember, kid. But I remember, like when I was doing my radio shows, I was always bringing up that version of football. You probably caught some of those debates, right? I mean,
yeah.
Because the era, and I am talking about the old days now. In the old days, Steelers, Cowboys, 49ers, like the era of super teams, and then became football tried to get to the era of parity. And we all look back and thought, No, man, I liked super teams. So, hey, baseball has that now. So I'm saying don't hate on it. Like the teams that are rebuilding, and I know that, oh, teams are trying, they're not trying to win. No, they're trying to win, but they know they can't win every single year. And teams are too smart. There's a lot of money for certain teams and not a lot of money for other teams. So you have to time your cycle correctly, and you have to rebuild and try to build something sustainable. That has created this dynamic where you have a bunch of teams that are not going to win. You have a bunch of teams that are tremendous, and then you have kind of that small middle class of the Mets, Cardinals, Texas Rangers. But look, DA, how good was the postseason last year when it was nothing but super teams?
Yeah.
Like once the Twins and the Rockies got bumped out in the wild card, you had nothing but monsters, and every series was great.
Brian Kenny, MLB Network, joins us on opening day. There's so many cool storylines this year, but one that you know is going to be hanging over the heads of the entire season is going to be Bryce Harper and his impending free agency. How do you foresee this walk year for Bryce Harper going?
It depends. I mean, look, he's going to get paid. He's a great player. He's very young. It's much more exciting if he's Ted Williams. And he was having a monstrous offensive year before his knee buckled on first base. So I think he's going to be excellent. It would be exciting if he did some absurd 420 or 450 on base, slugging 600 again. So I think it's going to be a great story. And then, there'll be endless speculation. And, the way I view the game, analytically, it comes down to I love the player. I don't like signing $100 million contracts, but it could be a good investment if the guy is on the right side of 30, which he is. He's young. He's like 25. So, he's a great player, but how much for a lot of teams it's going to be how big can one guy be a percentage of your payroll? That's going to be the ultimate question because he deserves a ton of money. He could be a 9 or 10 win player, to use the parlance of wins above replacement. But how much money can you pay one guy? I think this will test it.
I like how you have embraced sabermetrics, advanced analytics, but then brought them into the everyday household of the everyday Joe Six-Pack that sometimes probably gets overwhelmed with the avalanche of numbers. What's a number that you're looking at today, a statistic that you're looking at going into this season that Joe Six-Pack can latch onto and know the value of?
Well, I would tell any mainstream fan to just listen to anybody that talks about WAR. Just listen to it. Don't reject it. Wins above replacement is not some perfect number. We'd all love one number to cover everything. Hey, a scale of 1 to 10, this guy as a radio show host, he's a 9. That tells you something because we all live in that language of 1 to 10. Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, we know that. In wins above replacement, it's better than batting average, it's better than park-adjusted OPS. It's because it includes defense and base running. It puts it into one number. It's not perfect. If someone has a gripe with a guy not having a WAR that they agree with, I'm fine with that. You think, Charlie Blackmon last year was an MVP candidate, right? His WAR was not great because his defensive metrics were not great. But there were kind of some mitigating circumstances that center fielders in Coors Field rarely get good defensive metrics. Now, so maybe that's a quirk. Maybe it's not fair, and it should be brought up. But, a 4-win player is an all-star. That's all-star level. Mike Trout, at his best, is like a 9 or 10-win player. But be aware, that's like Willie Mays. A 10-win player is Willie Mays, is Mike Trout. I just said, hey, Bryce Harper can be a 9 or 10-win player. That's a monster. If you're a 7-win player, Lorenzo Cain, here's a good way of putting it. Lorenzo Cain just signed a big money deal with the Brewers, right? He was with the Royals. Lorenzo Cain isn't hitting 50 home runs like Giancarlo Stanton, but you know what? He hits for average, hits for a little bit of power, not too much, and he runs and he fields. He's a 5-win player. That's a guy that you spend money on. A 5-win player is a guy that can run, field, and hit enough. That's a valuable guy. So when you hear wins above replacement, a lot of people hate on it reflexively. Don't. It's trying to approximate the totality of a player's contribution.
Do you like the idea of a pitch clock?
Yes.
Why?
there's just too much dead time. DA, if you could watch a game, I'm not even saying from the 50s, if you and I could sit and watch like the 1978 World Series.
I know it flies.
Yeah, with Reggie Jackson and Thurman Munson. These are, again, I saw this with my own eyes. This isn't Tris Speaker, this isn't Home Run Baker. I saw these guys with my own eyes, and the game just moved. Again, it's not even like back in the old days. We had a clip with Ron Darling when he was pitching. Again, and Ron Darling was sitting on the set, doing MLB Now. And we ran a clip of it, and he was just up there pitching, and he went through like an 8-pitch at bat. It took like a minute. Like guys are, and it's not their fault. Players are trained to look out for themselves. You need to be selfish. Hey, wait, I got to slow things down. There's such a war of information now with scouting, baseball ops, coaches. Like everybody's aligned, and it's a war. When you watch the World Series last year, I don't know if people realize what a war was going on in information-wise. And the last 2 World Series, by the way, have been that. Cubs and Indians, and then Astros and Dodgers. It was like they were stealing signs. They were trying to pick up pitch sequences. So everybody has to step out and think. Every batter has to step out and process. What did he just throw? What's he throwing next? Is he tipping? Is there a tell? What can I be looking for here? What are my signals? Did someone just whistle? Like there's all these things happening. So it slows down. You need to say, okay, fellas, we're going to do all the same things, except you're not getting out of the box, and the pitcher is pitching in 20 seconds. And the only way to do that is to put in a pitch clock. It does it right away.
It really is true. Sometimes they'll catch a classic game from 1988 or 1992 on TV, and it flies. The pace is just so fast.
And people beef with me, and they go, oh, but then replay, oh, but then commercials. I'm like, all right, can we address that after we address this? Like, okay, fine. I agree. Right, commercials too long. Fine. There's ways of dealing with that. There's a lot. Oh, replay. By the way, replay does not take too long. But all right, we can argue about that. But how about the first thing? How about just, and it goes back to Bernie Williams and Big Papi fixing the Velcro and taking a big deep breath and processing what the next pitch will be. And they grind it out. Well, grinding it out is not good for baseball. It's good for Bernie and Big Papi and whatever batters are up there now, but we need to move these guys along. And by the way, these guys moved much faster in the slow old days. This isn't an homage to millennials. How about make it move like Grandpa used to move? How about that?
Absolutely right. MLB Network in the middle of airing 17 straight hours of live opening day coverage. You can watch Brian Kenny host MLB Tonight at 1 p.m. Eastern, plus MLB Now throughout the season. It's opening day, and that's a beautiful thing. Follow Brian on Twitter at Mr. Brian Kenny. BK, it's always great. Enjoy opening day. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
All right, man. I look forward to it. Take care.
Okay, buddy. Thanks so much. Brian Kenny joining us here on the show.